Is that what we're talking about today?
Mm-hmm.
Traveling with kids? Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Holiday
hacks.
Holiday hacking.
Yes, we're gonna help. But so you are going between your families. Do you spend a lot of time with them?
My parents, yeah. Yeah, my in-laws.
Not so much.
We're
Yeah.
not on camera.
It's okay. We are on camera, but you're not on camera. We are on camera, so I'm not gonna lie to you. And then you guys are going far, right?
Yeah, we're going to Reno, Nevada. Which will be fun.
So there's a lot of things you need to do. There's a lot. With the time change, it is.
How long are you going for?
I got you, baby.
Oh, good.
It's his dad, my husband's dad's house. His dad and stepmom live out there, and we usually go every year or two, but last year I was literally expecting her, so we didn't go. And Alex grew up snowboarding out there and stuff, so he's super pumped up. His dad actually has never met Evelyn yet.
Crazy.
He's all the way on the West Coast. He's actually coming here next week for just like 3 days. We're like, let's go spend some time with him. Because who knows, next winter I may be pregnant. So I'm like, let's seize the moment. I was pregnant last year, let's go ahead and go. Don't pinch your fingers, silly.
Well, and the other thing that I think, and we have to figure it out with our family, because we don't see my family very much at all, but both my parents are in heaven, so really, and Vincent's family is now all down here in Florida, so it's easier to see his family. Is that not waiting for Thanksgiving and Christmas to go see the family that lives far away.
Oh, yeah.
Like instead, like scheduling a week in the spring or in the summer that you go out there that has nothing to do with the pressure of holiday stuff in addition to. So that's why I would try and like maybe you and Alex could think about a time that
He's coming here.
What?
Her father-in-law's coming here.
He is coming here next week, only for a few days, and we have other, cousins, and it's like busier when they're here. So
if you want to see them, then I would try to make a family reunion happen.
Yeah.
Like maybe not going to Nevada for the 4th of July or anything, but maybe Memorial Day weekend or something like that, and just being like, hey, let's have this. Let's do a like, hey, we're gonna come down. How many? Like, can we get together for a dinner or barbecue or something like that? And then you remove the pressure from yourselves, because October, November, December is such a crush of activities in your personal life, no matter where you live, unless you're a hermit. But you usually will have a Friendsgiving or two. You'll have holiday parties that you're going to or hosting. There'll be things that happen later at night that you just want her to experience, like Christmas lights and things like that. And so there is so much more stress on them in December that we like to, like, one of the things I want to figure out with Finn is next year, like, when can we go up to New England so that my kids can like see it. They've never been there, but we can visit my sister and brother. Because they literally said, they're like, we know you're never coming up here. And I was like, well, I do live in Florida where it's beautiful 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And everybody vacations here anyway, so it makes more sense that you visit me. But
And they get time off and can work from home.
yeah. We don't have that flexibility, but figuring that stuff out.
You can see fall leaves. It's crazy. I'm like, next year, I think that, because I saw y'all celebrating Sukkot, which we're really trying to learn just more about like the true Hebrew festivals. I really appreciate what we're doing, actually. And we're looking for friends who care about that kind of stuff. So,
welcome.
But,
You're welcome to
like,
come along. We are
camping
truly
trip,
figuring it
actually.
out. It's our third Sukkot ever.
Yeah, really?
Yeah,
Oh, well, you
so,
crushed
like,
it.
yeah.
You did more than I did.
Well, it's because our best friend's a carpenter.
Yeah. No, but we really are. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if you're ever gonna do something like that, like let us know.
But we could have you over
for a camping trip, like go see fall leaves. Like it'll be crazy. We can experience a little cold weather every year. Like it'll be wild.
We went up to Atlanta last weekend and saw all the colors. So I feel like you could go
not that far.
to like in the beginning of October to go up to LEJ, Florida. Georgia, is where all the apple picking is. So you could go so hard on fall.
Go so hard.
In the beginning of the fall.
Yeah.
They close down now.
In the late October, the leaves are more beautiful, but there's no more apples left.
I was gonna say something.
But
our hardest part right now is she just still is not great in the car. Anything over about 20-30 minutes. Today, glorious ride to the cottage. This was amazing. Such a beautiful start to the day. She didn't cry. We had Bible songs playing. We had like the whole setup. But My dad actually lives up in Atlanta. We have friends in North Carolina, and like, oh, we should come up here. I'm like, it's a no. Like, road trips are not for us. We went to a fall festival in McClinney last weekend. She screamed all the way home. 55 minutes.
Did you open the window?
We tried everything. Like, we even finally resorted to the happy
What was
song,
at the fall festival?
It was actually pretty chill. I mean, she played in the corn pit. We hung out with some friends. I mean, she just gets really frustrated. As soon as her butt hits the car seat, she's so active
Have
now.
you tried a different car seat?
Well, we had the newborn one for a while, you know, the like more crouched over. Now we have the, I think it's even flow or something that's more straight up. And it's a convertible car seat, so I'm like not sure what else we would try.
Does she seem better in that?
It helps for a little bit, but not really.
So we've only had one bad car baby, so
Really?
I really
It's
understand.
really rough.
I understand what you're going through. Now I didn't before. I was just like, our kids love the car. What's wrong with you people?
Like
no.
she'll start like kind of almost falling asleep. I guess I'm like, oh my god, she's gonna do it. She's gonna fall asleep, and then all of a sudden she just starts to get real anxious like this, and then just starts literally screaming. It's like she won't like just let it go and just relax in the car. Like, it's okay.
Have you tried putting her on the other side of the car?
Well, they say the seat isn't supposed to like touch, you know, the car seat, and when Alex is driving, it would touch the car seat eventually.
It definitely touches the car seat in our car.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, Alex is very car seat safe, very passionate about that. But I'll mention it. I mean,
But what if it made the difference?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you don't think it's deadly.
No.
Do you put her
It's
on
not deadly.
swings?
Yeah, she doesn't like it. Because I've heard of like motion sickness, you know, because I'm like, Alex used to get really frustrated. I'm like, there's something she just doesn't like. You can't get mad at her, you know. He's like,
It's gonna change when you get to turn her around.
I know, but what are your thoughts about that? Because I know some people are very passionate about leaving them rear facing for literally as long as possible.
You should follow your car seat manufacturer's guidelines, but you should try different seats if your kid really hates the car seat that much.
I feel so. I was just learning something about this today. Hello. The lady was talking about primitive reflexes, and the part of the brain that the primitive reflexes work on is like the brainstem and the cerebellum, and she was talking about how vestibular input can throw kids off.
Like when they're overstimulated and then you get them in the car?
Can be. So like for an older kid, it can be that.
But is it the window movement? Is it the movement out the window that's tripping her up?
Oh,
it can be, but it's the same thing with the swing. It's that movement.
That's what confuses me. Sometimes she's fine.
Yeah.
You know, that's the part that
I bet
like
it's
trying to
largely due to the demand that's on her outside of that circumstance.
So that's why I said how stressful was the festival.
Yeah.
Because if it was an increase in stress for her.
Yeah, definitely when she's tired or hungry, like we just know we're like, this will be a fun car ride home. So we always say like, oh, can't wait to get in the car. Yay.
What I would do is I would entertain the idea of, if you have some good friends that have car seats, it's all the way over here, honey. Is I would put her in their car seats and see if she likes it. The other thing, if the vestibular thing is it doesn't mean that that's her thing forever. I think that there's exercises that you could do to help her get more used to moving. But if she hates, I mean, that's all him. I don't know what exercise, I don't know what, that's his answer.
Okay.
And maybe he can talk about it in a minute. But I would cover up your window. So there are window shades that you can get that literally pull over the window. And I would,
to have one that just would
not the little thing, but like it's literally, it goes like you roll down the window and you pull it down over the whole window and then you roll it up. It's like super darkening.
Okay.
So like part of it is outside, so they do wear out. But I would try to remove, and I would do that on both back windows. What kind of car do you have?
Like a small SUV, a Tiguan.
And then I would think about if you can block her being able to see how much movement is out there.
Okay.
Because she's going backwards over bumps.
Yeah.
So imagine being on a roller coaster. That's what it feels like to her. And there's things that are constantly changing that she's not prepared for. Now her nervous system should adapt to that. So there are things that he probably knows about that you could do with her to help her. Yeah, but it's also starting to develop. And so it sounds like it's more than just I don't like the car seat, but I would try other car seats and see if she is good. And then the other thing is that I would just make sure she sleeps. So like you're like, well, we could leave at 5,
Yeah.
or she could fall asleep on me and we could leave at 6:30. And is there something for us to do? Like, can we have another drink? Can we spend more time together? And the answer is yes. And I would let her sleep
For sure.
and then do the car ride. Again, I would just lower that stress threshold. Is she hungry? Let's feed her. Let's give her the pouch. Let's nurse her. Let's do whatever it is that we need to. And then, especially if you're finding something that she really loves and enjoys, I would make sure you have that and start to get a positive association. So if she has like a snack that she's like wild for. So for Honora, that is a Scout bar. She will do anything for a Scout bar. Like, it is her lifeblood. Like, the girl, there's nothing she wants more. She'll eat them until she just poops straight dates. Like, it is, like, she'll bring you 6 or 7 a day and ask you, bar, 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 bar. Like, and it's not any bar, it's those bars. And so when we were having a hard time dropping her off at church, I gave them a Scout bar and I said, hey, give this to her when we walk away. And she was like, you were right. Because she was like, oh, you're a friend? This is why you teach your kids not to take candy from strangers, because they will, especially if they have Scout bars and you're a Nora Farrar. And so trying to start having positive associations with, like, maybe she likes those like melt things, or maybe she likes puffs, or whatever it is. I mean, it could be a beef stick. There are kids that's their favorite snack.
Yeah.
But I would start to positively associate that with the car seat.
I have been giving her crackers, but it sounds like she's like wildly in
Yeah.
love with them. So.
There's something she's wildly in love with.
Okay.
It
I have
could
done puffs, and sometimes she's like way too far gone. I'm like, would you like a puff? It's not gonna work.
the puff, but if it's blueberries, like,
Yeah.
I mean, honest to God, I would find out what she is just insane for,
Okay.
and I would try to associate it with the car seat.
Okay,
It's
don't
kind
give it
of
to
like
her
training,
except
yeah.
in the car.
It's kind of like training dogs, right? You
Yeah.
want positive association. And a lot of people might clap back on here and say like, oh, well, that's a food association. You could be doing negative food things.
Yeah,
Like,
I've heard that.
you have to drive your car.
Yeah.
You have to put your child in
Very
the car.
stressful.
It's very stressful to mom's nervous system.
Yeah.
All over when they're screaming and crying and stuff. I always tell
Or ring
people,
is like,
yeah.
Are you having a heart attack?
Yeah, and it breaks your heart, and literally it's releasing hormones in your brain. And that's why we're having this conversation about the holidays, because your children become unhinged in this season. And a lot of people don't put the layering effect of the stressors that they're going through in their mind, because you're going to have more sugar and you're nursing her. And so she's literally going to have more sugar, whether you give it to her or not. If you're having a cookie, if you're having a glass of champagne, if you're having this stuff that you don't traditionally just like have because you went to a holiday party every Friday night all of December. Because there's so many activities to go to. The thing that I see a lot of kids suffer from is the night of light, the chairs, deck the chairs, which is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Love it. Totally. We're going to have a chair there someday. But when you go there, it has to be after bedtime. Hot chocolate or some treat is usually involved, and lights are stimulating.
Yeah.
And so you see these kids melting down everywhere, and especially these sweet babies who can't communicate.
Yeah.
And right now, in all the ages they're forward facing in the stroller. So there's nothing that they can get safe in. So if you were gonna go to deck the chairs, I would say wear them. Or even let them experience it closer to dusk, because they don't need the effect that you need as a parent, like as an adult. Like, they don't need it to be pitch dark or anything. Like, it's cool during the daytime, but as the night goes down and their brain is starting to wind down, it's getting electrocuted with all of these lights, and they're like, wow. And then you're like, we should go into the car seat and drive home, and then we need to go to bed. And they're like, why is this so hard? And they're like, well, I did that on Saturday after we went and saw Santa on Saturday morning. And then on Friday, we stayed out at my mom's house a little bit later because we were making Christmas cookies, and they rolled it, and it was so cute. And you're just like, I didn't realize what I was doing to my kid, because 300 days of the year, we are home by 5, eating dinner in the same place, doing our bath bed books cascade, and with people that are normal. And so the more that you, like, yeah, Santa's not normal. like cousins aren't normal unless you do life with your family all the time, like you were saying, like unless it's like this constant thing. It's a stressor. And so like you don't stress him out. You don't stress him out. He saw you and jumped for joy. You are not a stressor for him. If you guys are having a big, loud Latin, like, you know, Christmas, he's going to gravitate to you because he's like, she's safe. Yeah. And you guys being wise parents and having this conversation, you can be like, I don't think my kid's okay. I'm going to pull him into a room and just give them 20 minutes. We had a welcome to the world party for Vin, our son, in New York. Like he was the first grandson. It was a whole thing. And we got there and he went to sleep. It was his nap time. And he slept for 2.5 hours because we had traveled to New York and everything was different. And he almost missed the entire party. And they were like, why don't you wake him up? Why don't you wake him up? Why don't you wake him up? And we were like, A of all, our son does not sleep. So we're riding this train. Like he was not a sleeper. But even when we got him up, he was like this to him because everyone was getting in his face and saying how cute he was and oh my gosh, and it was a big deal that he was there and it was wonderful. It was such a cool party, and I met Vin's family, like people I hadn't met before because we had a small wedding, but it overwhelmed our how old is he? 6 months old? Yeah. I think he was 6 months old. And so this is Nora communicating it. She doesn't like what her brother's doing. Hey, Vincent, can you stop?
Oh, I think it should stop. Are you using the silk?
And so when we're making decisions about the holidays, like Thanksgiving, one of the things I wanted to talk about, and this is a very big thing in our relationship, is when you're with your partner's family, your partner has to stand up to your the family. Yeah. Your mother-in-law will not hear you the same way that she will hear your husband. And this makes husbands very uncomfortable. They do not want to stand up. It's not like natural. And so it requires a lot of conversation. And I mean, in the 7 years that we've been together, there have been things where I'm like, hey, can you talk to your mom about this? Because she just can't hear me. And I don't even think it's anything vindictive. It's just not, she's like, oh, this is my daughter-in-law's thing, and I don't necessarily agree with it, and I think it's over the top. And it could, and again, Yvette, I'm not like talking at you if you're watching this, is that a lot of the time, a lot of the restrictions we have for our kids are in place because of what my husband knows about pediatric development. But because he's introverted, he's not the advocate. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that, or we're not doing this, or we're not doing that. And so like having that conversation with your husband and just saying like, I need you to be a knight in shining armor for me. Like I need you to protect our family. And I said to him, like, do you agree with what we're doing and why? I said, can you take the time to explain to your parents? Because I will tell you some of the things that happen at Thanksgiving is your children are snuck sweets.
Yeah. Don't tell your mom.
Yeah, don't tell your mom. Oh, I just gave the baby a little caramel. It's the holidays. What does it like? I just gave them a taste or whatever.
Everything I did in my youth to my nephews and nieces is going to come back.
Yes. So one of the things is I don't want you to get in a fight with your family, but just say like, hey, we learned that keeping sugar out of his system until 2 is really powerful for his gut. So that's why we're not doing it. And I promise when they're 2, you can take them out for ice cream. So we do this for 3, and Vin's aunt and uncle were like, we just want to take him for ice cream. We just want to take him for ice cream. And there's some perception for children that if they don't experience these things, they're missing out on life. And I was like, it's from 3 to 93. Okay, we've got 90 years of ice cream eating. Like, can we chill? But once Karen turned 3 and they got to take her for ice cream, they were so excited, right? And they respected us. There's a lot of respect, especially with what our kids eat in Vin's family, because we're like, hey, we don't do this ingredient, or hey, we don't do dyes, and hey, we don't do sugar, and like, is this okay? And so his family is incredible about asking us, like, is this all right? And as our kids now sleep at his mom's house every Tuesday, she just knows now that it's been 6 years that we have these kids, like, these are the things that we're cool with. And And once Nora starts to sleep there, when she gets to be that age where it's okay, she knows that until she's 3, we're not doing ice cream, we're not doing cookies, we're not doing treats. But also to combat that, we're always prepared with something special to give Nora if the kids have something. Now, she's a very vocal girl and she is pissed about it. Like, she's like, no, I want that. Like, they had cake the other day and like the Scout bar wouldn't do it. And at some point, I'm just I have to teach her, like, you're going to be disappointed. Like, this is something, it's just the same way. And people are like, oh, that's not fair. Or, I can't believe you do that. I'm like, do you let your kids have wine? And some people might say yes. Some people might say yes, but you don't give it to them at 3.
No, at 7. Like first communion. Oh no, that's when I got my first glass of wine. You know, first communion. You know, glass of wine with sparkling water.
Wow.
And I went to
I didn't even know it was coming either because I was in my aunt's church and I was like, whoa.
But I mean, it's not the whole bottle.
It's not the whole bottle, but also, do you get wine every night going forward? No. Do you get wine every weekend? It's a special thing, right?
Yeah.
And so you can have that boundary with your family. And if your family is one you cannot trust, because
there is
yes,
that.
then they should not be alone with your kids. And if that hurts their feelings,
they'll get over it.
suck an egg. I do not care.
Suck it up.
My job is to protect and provide for this child and to bring them into the world in a safe place. And I'm going to talk about this a lot, and this happens before your kids are verbal, is that they do not need to kiss, hug, or high five anyone. And this is a big movement in our generation, and it really, really bothers the generation before. Yeah. What do you mean you don't kiss me goodbye? What do you mean you're not giving me a hug? Like, they have bodily autonomy. And people are like, I was forced to kiss everybody and I was fine. I was like, what does your therapist say about that? Yeah. Like, anytime anyone's like, oh, we spanked and we were fine, I'm like, what does your therapist say about that? Like, we all have issues with things that happen. But if your child does not want to kiss or hug or high five or even acknowledge someone, it is okay. And so what I will tell you is that if you're working on manners, saying please and thank you, you can teach these kids to say please and thank you with sign language. Because sometimes working up the courage to speak, like our second daughter is our shyest girl when it comes to strangers. She could do thank you, but she couldn't say it and she can't look at them. So she would do this, and I was like, that was her saying thank you. Because I do think manners are important, but I don't think at the detriment of forcing your child into performing, especially when they're already in a stressful situation. But the first time we meet grandma and grandpa should not be like, oh, let's do kissy, kissy, huggy, huggy. Oh, let me take her. Like, if you offer the baby and the baby says no, then it's not, oh, sorry. It's just like, I guess she's not ready. I'm sure she'll get used to you as we hang out. And so, and anyone can disagree with me with this because everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But if in our family, we train that if you're going to stare at someone, you have to say hello. So kids stare.
Yeah, they do.
They stare. And so I was taught that as a kid. I'm a very social person. Karen has a very hard time with hello. And so I am teaching her, if you don't want to say hello to someone, don't stare at them. You know, we don't point at people. And I say, if you're going to point, then you need to ask a question. Because again, it's hard for a kid when they're like, what is that? Why does that person have a wheelchair? Why do they have a tube in their throat? What is that? I said, if you're going to point it out, then you need to say, why do you have that? It's not something that we point and talk about, or that we're going to say, oh, no, don't point at that person in the wheelchair. It's just, let's be curious about it, and let's be okay to say, like, oh, well, their legs don't work the same that yours do, and so now they have a chair that they push around in. We have to work that out all the time. My children are fascinated by dwarfs, or shorter people, small people. I don't know the correct terminology. Sorry if I offended anyone there. But they are like, why is that person the same size as me? And our answer is, God makes people in all different colors. He makes people in all different sizes. He makes people in all different ways. And so when that person was made, they were made small. And they're like, wow, that's cool. And they're like, but they're a big person, but they're little. And I was like, yeah, because daddy's taller than mommy, right? And I said, and Uncle Joey's taller than Bumpy. And so we just talk about what all the differences are in people instead of being like, oh my God, don't point at that person. Because we've heard so much with social media how, like, when there's a child who has cerebral palsy or is in a wheelchair, they want your kid to come up and say hi. They want them to say like, what is it? Why do you have that? Or what is it? Because instead of being this like ostracized thing, let's teach our kids to have a polite conversation. But anyway, all that to say, you are allowed to say, my child doesn't want to be held by you. They're not going to kiss you goodbye, like whatever. But you also work in your manners and just be like, you need to say goodbye, but that can be waving. That can be a hello. And even high fives don't have to happen. So if they're like, give them a kiss goodbye, or how about a high five, and they say no, then just like, they're not really, they don't want, this is a lot for them. That's what I usually say. This is a lot for them, so I think they need a break. Or like, did you hear them say no? Like they don't want to be tickled anymore. And so sometimes we have to advocate in for our kids. Or I'll say to Karen, I'll say, are you okay? Do you like this? Or do you want it to stop? And she'll be like, I like it. Or she'll be like, I want it to stop. And I'll be like, come here. I was like, she wants it to stop. Like in our family, when we say stop, it means stop. And that's another thing that we practice with our kids is like when we're tickling and they say stop, we stop. And so they know that that word has power. And so, but I'll also say to my son, who's the one who's like, I don't want you to tickle me, but he really does. I'll be like, are you saying stop and you really want me to stop? Are you saying stop and you need a minute and you want to keep going? And I'll talk to him about that because those are two kinds of consent. I think the time